Welcome back to the KTP podcast, the show where we explore careers, insights, and everything in between. Each episode, we tackle a new topic to help you grow, learn, and stay ahead of your professional journey. Let's jump right into it. Hey, Merissa, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. We're really excited to have you on.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Currently as an APM at IXL Learning, we're really excited to learn more about your career journey, kind of some things that you've done, and some things you're doing in your current role, and kind of where you see the industry is headed.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I'm currently an APM at IXL Learning. So I'm based out of San Mateo, California, just outside of San Francisco. And I've worked at IXL Learning for just over a year now. I started in August of 2023, and it's my first role after graduating. So yeah, it's also a rotational program, and I'm currently in my third rotation. I can talk a little bit more about that later if you want. But yeah, every rotation is 6 months, and I'm in my last rotation.
Okay, so yeah, let's just jump right into it. So, why did you decide to pursue a career in products? Like, could you elaborate on your career path so far?
Yeah, so I was in Bucks as well, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to pursue in like my first, second years, but I did think I was more on the business side. So I did a couple business internships. I was like an ops intern for Smart Suites, and then I was a business analyst intern for Trulio. But then at the time, I was talking to one of my mentors, which you actually had on the podcast earlier, Rebecca, and she was, and I think I heard this advice from older Bucks people as well, but they said kind of not to close yourself off from certain career paths. So in this case, like software development, because previously I was like, that's definitely not for me. But yeah, the advice that I got was that it's much easier to go from a technical role to like a less technical role rather than the other way around. So if there's any time to try it out, then it would have been in my internship period. So the next internship I did was a software developer intern role at RBC, but it was part of this like special program called Amplify, where it's basically like a 4 month hackathon and you work in teams of four to create a product. So the first half of that internship was very product management like, I guess. And then the second half of it was like actually building out the product. And after that internship, I realized that I enjoyed the product part of it much more than the software development part of it. So that's when I decided that the next internship, my last internship that I wanted to do, would be a product management internship, which at the time was kind of like a scary decision to make because I didn't know that many people in product, and a lot of my friends around me were on the software development track. So it felt kind of, yeah, it felt a little bit scary to like jump into product management, and it felt like this world of like unknown. But I ended up landing a role at Clearco, which is based out of Toronto. So I did that for my very last internship, and that's how I got into product. And then, yeah, from there, I decided to just stick with product for post grad.
Thanks for sharing that, Marissa. Just curious as well, given your elaborate experience, what do you think are some of the most important skills a PM can have in today's world?
Yeah, that's a good question. Number one, I would definitely say is communication. I think that's something that is like interviewers look for across all of the different interviews. And then in the product role, like you're collaborating with people from all different teams. So it is a lot of communication and like cross-team communication. So that's definitely like number one most important skill, I would say. And then critical thinking is also important. So I think it's common for product people to get requests either from like different stakeholders within the company or users for what they want in the product, like what new features they want to see, or yeah, just kind of like throwing ideas at the product people. And there's obviously not enough bandwidth to like work on everything. So being able to think about like what fits into the product, what makes sense, but also like when you receive feedback from a user about like, I want to see this in the product, you kind of have to think about it critically and trace it back to what the main pain point is. I feel like a lot of the times users don't know what they actually want. They know what they think they want, but it's kind of up to the product manager to kind of trace that back to the main pain point and like decipher what it is they're actually asking for. So communication, critical thinking, and then I would say like product sense is also important, which is a little hard to learn directly or like I think when I was first starting out, I wasn't sure what product sense was, and there's no like course for product sense, for example, but kind of just like understanding why good products work and what users, are like what they value out of a product, what they're getting out of it, like what makes users keep coming back to the product in a nutshell, like what makes a product good. So those three things I think are what I would say are pretty important for a product manager.
Hey, just to follow up on that, you mentioned product sense. Like, what are some ways you've kind of built product sense over the years, whether it's been through your previous experiences, through working as like developer, or even like some things you've picked up along the way throughout your rotational program?
I would say when I was first starting out, I would do these exercises where I like take a product and kind of like break it down, think about like why I as a user like this product so much, why I keep coming back to it, what works well for me. And then I would do the opposite and look at a product that like frustrates me and like think about why it doesn't work well. So this is like something that I did, like I sat down and did, but then over time I kind of just like would do this as I'm going through my day. Like if I'm on a website, just like doing my day-to-day activities and I like notice a good product, I kind of like take a minute to like look at the details of it and like kind of evaluate what what stands out to me, what's working well. I think one of the courses I did in university actually helped with this. We focused on this book called Design of Everyday Things, and we studied that book. And I think that really breaks it down into like what the different parts of a product are. It was written like quite some time ago. So it focuses more on, I think, physical, tangible objects, but then it's a good experience. It's a good activity to like kind of take the concepts from that book and apply it to products that I'm using every day. So like software products. But yeah, there's concepts like affordability, concepts like how to account for user error and user mistake. So yeah, those are things that I did kind of before I started working full-time in product to develop my product sense. And then I think ever since I started out, a lot of, I think hearing user feedback about what works really helped with that, as well as like shadowing mentors and hearing them like give feedback on features that are being worked on, whether it's projects of mine or projects of other people. So like their feedback as well as like their questions and just like breaking down how this new feature would fit into the product or not. So that's been helpful since I started work.
You mentioned with having that book on, having different data designs and how that was more about like tangible physical products.
Mhm.
How do you kind of see the product world evolving, in the next 5 years, now that we're more into like the LLM AI versions, right, from, physical tangible products? What are some of the things you see kind of coming up in the next few years within the product world?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned AI because IXL just released like an AI tool yesterday. So on that note, I do see like a lot of different products introducing AI into their platform. I also see like product managers using AI more to be more productive and to be more efficient. This definitely depends from company to company, but I think like them becoming more efficient if they're producing more and there's not any like engineering bandwidth or design bandwidth to keep up. I do see product managers kind of like expanding their role a little bit more to not rely on designers and engineers for like things that are favors almost. So for example, like at least at IXL, like we as product managers don't really run SQL queries if we want to like get data that's not directly accessible on Google Analytics. And so we'll like reach out to an engineer and kind of like ask them for this favor. So I kind of see product managers like expanding their role a little bit and like doing things that might be currently considered outside of their role. Yeah, two sides of that answer. Like I see a lot of companies like introducing AI to their product more. And then I see product managers using AI to be more productive and efficient.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what are some common misconceptions about being a PM?
Yeah, I think the first one that comes to mind is that PMs are in meetings all day long, which like when I look at some of the higher up PMs at my company, that's like almost accurate, but that's also because they like manage people as well. So it's like not just being a PM, but also being a manager. As just like an individual contributor, you're not just like sitting in meetings all day long. I will say there are like quite a few meetings because you're working with different teams, but you do still get time to sit down and do your work. And so, yeah, that's definitely a common misconception that I can say is not entirely accurate. And that's something that I thought was true as well before I came into this role. And so I was like a little bit worried that I'd just be like drained from being in meetings all day long. Happy to say that that's not the case.
Anything else you think, Marissa, that you found unexpected in your role? Like any of the biggest challenges that you've ever had, then how do you kind of overcome them? How do you kind of tackle them?
One of the biggest challenges that I've faced so far is, especially as an APM, like as a new grad coming in onto an engineering team where there have been engineers who have been like here for many years or like senior engineers who are much older and like much more experienced than me, for me to come in and kind of like tell them the priority of things and like tell them to work on things. I didn't have very much confidence in doing this especially when I first started, because I didn't feel like I was able to prioritize things and like tell the team what the priority was. Like I always kind of like went to my manager and asked if this was the highest priority item and then went back to the team. But even then it was like I think that was definitely a challenge for me was communicating priorities to the team. But I think that just comes with experience and like understanding your team's roadmap and how different projects and tickets will fit into it, and being confident that, yes, this is a high priority item and we do need to work on this, and it's okay to tell people who are more experienced than you to like, hey, we need someone to pick up this ticket because that is, the role of the product managers on the team. So kind of just like stepping into that role and overcoming imposter syndrome has been something that I've learned over the past year.
Yeah, it's a solid piece of advice, and I bet you're around a lot of really smart people just being in the Bay Area in general and being in product. On that note, you had to go through your professional journey from scratch. Would you still pick a product role, or is there, anything else you would have done differently?
I think I would still pick a product role. Every time I get asked like, "Oh, how is your job?" My answer is like, "This is exactly what I wanted to do after grad." So I'm very happy in my role. I really enjoy like the types of problems that I get to think about and work on, and I love the creativity and autonomy that I'm able to have in a product role. I don't just have like projects like handed to me and it's like very narrow requirements and it's already like scoped out. Like I think I get to do a lot of that. And so there's a lot of freedom, and I get to like express my creativity in that way. And I love being able to like work with different teams. So I did enjoy like being a software developer and like the coding that I did in university. So I like that I still get to think about those kinds of problems and like work with engineers. And same thing with like designers. Like I did enjoy the prototyping and like Figma work that I did in university. So it's nice that I still get to kind of like have a foot in that, but also like that's not entirely my job. So yeah, I really enjoy what I'm doing right now. So I don't think that I would choose a different role if I went back.
No, I definitely agree with that, and transitioning a bit back to your university days, Marissa, being a Buck student, obviously you're under the pressure of handling computer science and business. and you've already had a very intensive internship experience while you're at university as well. But outside of that, what were some things you kind of did to have fun and like kind of maybe volunteered someplace or you were in maybe some clubs?
Yeah, I was in so many clubs when I was in university, especially in my first and second year, because I think the week before my first year, I was talking to this guy who had like just graduated, and his advice was like to apply to as many clubs as possible. So, yeah, I did a lot of clubs and it was fun. I met a lot of people, but I think if I went back, I would probably like just focus on one or two and burn myself out. So, yeah, I definitely did a lot of clubs. I tried to explore Vancouver quite a bit. So whether that was like going off campus to like different cafes to study or going out to eat and like trying new restaurants, I feel like I did that quite a bit. But I think I, ever since like moving off campus, I like realize how much, just like how great of a location it's in, being somewhat close to downtown Vancouver. And just the campus itself is so beautiful. So like I definitely valued the time that I spent like exploring the campus and then going off campus and like exploring Vancouver and like the surrounding nature. So I feel like I did quite a bit of that. And then of course like the occasional calendar party here and there.
Those are always a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, just to wrap it up, if you were to give yourself one piece of advice, you're starting university, 17, 18 years old, stepping on campus for the first time, but what would it be?
Hmm. I think I would say to stay open-minded and not close myself off to anything, which is similar advice to like what I was talking about before when I was like software development is not for me, and then I got that advice and then that kind of like opened up my career path a little bit because I think if not for that one like software developer internship, I don't know if I would have found my way to product. So kind of staying open-minded, and that applies to like not just internships, but like classes that you can take or clubs you can join or people that you meet as well. Especially like since UBC has such a diverse campus, it's cool to like make friends who are from like all around the world. So being open-minded in that sense as well. Yeah, staying open-minded, not closing yourself off, and like just being open to different opportunities that come up, as well as like creating your own opportunities. Yeah, you kind of create your own reality. And so if you don't go out of your way to like seek something out or work towards something, once you've set a goal, you have to work towards it. So my very first internship actually like it was at a startup and it wasn't like a role that was listed that I applied to. It was a role that was created because I had reached out to the CEO and like was chatting with her and she like created this opportunity for me. So, yeah, like definitely go after your goals actively and don't just like expect things to come to you as well. So, yeah, those two main pieces of advice.
Create your own opportunities, just put yourself out there. Yeah, you make your own reality. Like it's up to you how you spend your time. But
Yeah,
yeah, that's everything. Thank you so much, Marissa.
yeah, thanks so much for having me on.
And that's it for today. Thank you for listening to our episode, and we'll catch you at the next one.